Hello, happy Monday. I am coming on at a totally different time to do a live. I am back in my home office. I'm back from BC and just settling into life. And so today on this live, I wanted to cover nervous system regulation um, because I feel like one video or two videos just doesn't do it justice. And also I had some interesting experiences when I was in Vancouver. I have been testing a new protocol and so little history. I have been a very, very nervous flyer for the past few years, meaning that I do not like getting on a plane at all. And usually, what happens is in the days leading up to me having to fly anywhere, I get very, very anxious about it. And sometimes I'm even at the terminal about to, get on the plane and I think I'm going to turn right around. So the way that I normally fly is as soon as I get on the plane, I usually start talking to the person next to me to try to distract myself. I usually tell them, I'm like, hey, flying really makes me nervous. Can you please distract me until the plane takes off? And thankfully, I've been blessed with people who will distract me. And, like a few months ago, 6 months ago, when I flew to Colorado, I actually spoke to I actually found someone to speak to who wasn't even sitting in the same aisle or row as myself. And he was kind enough to actually talk to me the entire flight to Colorado. That's how nervous I was. Now, this last time that I flew, when I flew to Vancouver, I had to be distracted the first little bit, and then I was fine. Then I did some work. So, the reason that I'm sharing this is I've been doing a new protocol. I started a new protocol about a month ago. It works with a plant spray, and it works with, I've been using some patches as well to help with anxiety. And so, on my flight back last week, I was able to get on the plane. I had no anxiety in my days leading up to flying, and I had no anxiety being on the plane itself. And I actually had a row all to myself, and I managed to be on the flight without having to distract myself. I actually was able to be there and just do my work, which is what I intended to do. I had some work that needed to get done, and I was able to fly. So I'm very excited about this because I have felt a bit of a shift in my own nervous system. And it got me thinking about the fact that I've gone through so much over the course of my life that only now am I getting to a place where I feel settled in my own skin. And there's only brief little moments of it. It's not all the time either. So I'm sharing this because most people, I think, are in a state of constant fight or flight. They have gotten so habituated to living in that constant state of stress that they actually don't even know what it feels like in their body to not be in that state. And if you've never experienced that state, or you've been in a state of constant fight or flight since childhood, how would you know that there's another way to be, right? You wouldn't have ever experienced it, and it probably feels foreign. And I think that a lot of people are in this state more than most people realize. And the reason this is important is that if you are struggling with chronic health issues, if you're dealing with an autoimmune condition or diabetes or any other type of chronic illness, and that you're trying to bring your body back into balance, and maybe you're doing all the things, maybe you've made dietary changes and you're exercising and you're doing certain things, but you're still not where you want to be health-wise, this piece of regulating your nervous system could definitely be a part of the puzzle that's missing. Because the thing is, when you're in a state of chronic stress, fight or flight, your food is not digesting the same way. Your your hormones are not firing the same way. Your brain is not functioning at its optimal. So there are all these downstream things that are happening that are impacting the way that you show up or don't show up in your life. And if your goal is to actually create health, this is a part of the puzzle that you definitely want to get at. And it's interesting because I was actually, there's somebody that I'm connected to on Facebook, and she posted about her nervous system today as well. And I thought about it and I was like, most of the time, I think a lot of us have this idea that if we're working on something, some aspect of our health, that it needs to be resolved in 30 days or 60 days or 90 days. And the reason that I'm bringing forth this conversation is that when it comes to what happens within our nervous system, when we are going through traumatic situations in our life or stressful events in our life, we don't get to go back into a completely regulated state right away. And it might actually take years and years and years and years to get our nervous system to stand down. Because basically, what's happening within the body is that because you've become so habituated to the state of stress, no matter what is coming at you, your nervous system has this way of responding to events and to the environment as a constant threat, right? So I will speak for myself. I've had a very traumatic childhood, dealt with different forms of abuse, never felt safe. And that obviously went into, the rest of my life. And of course, back then, information wasn't as readily available as it is now. We didn't have YouTube and Instagram and all of these things. And I also didn't know that there was another way to be. I didn't, because I had never experienced it. And then, so kind of the icing on the cake, so to speak, was when my husband passed away very suddenly in 2012. And because it was such a traumatic event, it put my body in such a heightened state of stress, that I could feel it even more so, of like how tense my body was, how initially I went through like a period of extreme shock, right? I wasn't even in my body. And then when I started to come back into my body, things just felt off. And I just felt like I was a bundle of stress all the time. And of course, the more time that went on, you kind of get back to life, you kind of get back to sort of regular things, but the body hasn't regulated itself. It's still in that state. And so I'm sharing all this because if you are someone who has gone through a lot of trauma in your life and you've gone through incredibly stressful events, within life, somehow you have to create a container where you can start to work on regulating your nervous system. And what does that look like? Well, number one, it always starts with diet and hydration, because we're mostly water and our body makes cells and tissues from what we're putting in. So if we're putting in things that are not that nourishing, or maybe even create a lot of stress within our body in order for the body to digest those things, then obviously we're not helping our body out. So if you can clean up your diet and you can start to hydrate properly, I'm a big believer of molecular hydrogen because I've experienced it firsthand, the benefits in my body. I mean, case in point, I actually shared this on one of my Instagram stories, I never leave home without my molecular hydrogen bottle. Even if I'm going across town, I always bring it with me. But when I was traveling on my second day in Vancouver, I went for a hike and it was like pretty much 45 degrees uphill. By the time the hike was over, my quads, my glutes, my calves, everything was sore. And I thought, oh, for sure, I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning and not be able to walk, right? but I had my bottle with me. So I ran recovery frequencies because my bottle has frequencies in the lid. I ran recovery frequencies into the water and I did like 2 or 3 bottles of it. Woke up the next day, not sore at all, not even a little bit. So I was like, wow, that worked, right? So, always foundational is the quality of our diet, quality of hydration. Of course, I always travel with my superfoods absolutely everywhere, all the time, because I know it's a way for me to guarantee that I'm putting quality nutrition into my body. Third up is always sleep, right? Because sleep is so important for helping to reduce stress in your body. And also, sleep is when your body does that deeper recovery. So, if you're getting less than 6 hours of sleep a night, or if you're not getting quality sleep, that's going to affect the way that your body recovers or doesn't recover. So, personally, I bring apothecary with me everywhere, whenever I'm traveling. I remember one time I went to Barbados and I didn't bring it, and I had the worst sleep, and I was there for 2 weeks straight. So I'm like, never again am I ever not traveling without some of my key tools. And so sleep is really, really important. And then in terms of regulating the nervous system, the other thing that's really important is becoming mindful of how you're speaking to yourself in your head, right? So if you're saying things to yourself that are not kind, that are not supportive, that are not helpful, you have to find a way to interrupt that pattern. Whether that means that you work with someone like a therapist to help you get away from negative self-talk to finding some things to say that are more life affirming. Or I personally have worked with EFT for now going on 11 years. I do some tapping every single morning. They're always life affirming statements. I've said them now for 11 years. They work. That's been my pattern interrupt for the past 11 years. And it's something that I go to throughout my day. So anytime I find myself getting worked up or upset, I interrupt that pattern by just noticing my thoughts and shifting my thoughts away from the negative into something positive. So, and sometimes in life we do need that support. We need to go through some therapy or counseling to help work through situations, especially if we've gone through traumatic situations. So that's really, really important. And then practices like somatic practices, different types of breathing practices, yoga, restorative yoga, yin yoga, those types of practices are very, very beneficial, because emotions get stored in our body, right? And it's important to tap into the body and allow those things to clear out. The other thing I'm a huge fan of is walking, especially walking in nature. Time in nature is incredibly healing. And ideally, if you can do it in a way where you are in silence, where you're not listening to anything, you're not on the phone, you're just able to be in nature and to listen to the birds, to the trees. If you happen to be somewhere where there's water, listening to the water is so, so therapeutic. And I would say, like, it takes time, right? It takes more than 30 days or 60 days or 90 days. In fact, you can't really put a time limit on your body when it comes to trying to unravel the trauma that might be sitting in your cells from going through traumatic events in your life. Like for myself, my husband passed away in 2012. We're going on 13 years. And there's aspects of my nervous system that are still out of balance. And I know it, I feel it. It's very subtle. But can I still get up in the morning and go about my day and do my, like, show up and work with my clients and, run a household and be with my partner and take care of my dogs and my friends and all the things? Yes, I have the ability to do that. But within that, I frequently say no to things. I'm very mindful of how much time I spend around other people. I'm very mindful of which relationships nourish me and uplift me and give me energy, and which relationships are draining. So I try not to spend my time or my energy with people that I know are going to drain me. Um, I also make sure that on a daily basis, I have time in my day to do meditation, to do some gratitude and prayer practice. I make sure that I get on my mat, even for a few minutes, to do some stretching. I make sure that I'm walking every single day. So these are the key things that help support my body. And of course, proper nourishment, proper hydration, that's just foundational. It's just how I do life. And so I make sure I'm doing these things on a daily basis consistently and creating space in my day to do those things. For me, that's generally first thing in the morning. And so I tend to get up a little earlier. And I also make sure that I don't start my day till a certain point. Now, of course, I have the freedom to do that because I work from home and I run a practice from home. And so I have the ability to do that. So even for yourself, like, what does that look like realistically? Maybe it looks like getting up 30 minutes earlier before everyone in your household to do some meditation and prayer practice, and do some grounding, do some gentle yoga to just kind of center yourself. Because, when you're getting into your day in a state of stress, it wires you for stress the entire day. But if you can get up in the morning and take a little bit of time for yourself, do some breath work, come into that parasympathetic state, right? What we're really talking about is sympathetic versus parasympathetic. Sympathetic is our fight or flight response, and parasympathetic is the rest and digest response. Most people are running on sympathetic. Most people are in a constant fight or flight response. And they just don't notice that's just kind of how life is. And they've gotten so habituated to doing life that way that they don't realize they can actually be in a parasympathetic state and do life that way instead. But there has to be that little bit of consciousness first thing in the morning to deliberately start your day in that way, so that you're able to greet the day with a little bit more calm, a little bit more um, groundedness, instead of like being in that go, 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 where you're feeling tense and you're feeling overwhelmed and your mind's going like a million miles a minute. Not a fun state to be in, right? So it's just creating that container, that space for yourself first thing in the morning. The other thing that works beautifully is that as you're in your day, whenever you feel like you're starting to feel stressed out or overwhelmed, use your breath, go to your breath. Just do some deep breathing. One of the simplest breathing techniques is breathing in for 4 or 5 counts, holding your breath for 4 or 5 counts, and then exhaling for 4 to 5 counts, and then holding your lungs empty for 4 to 5 counts. So especially if you find yourself getting anxious, do that style of breathing where you're inhaling, holding the breath, exhaling, holding your lungs empty, and then just repeat that for like 10 rounds, and you'll notice that your body will become more settled. This is something that you can do anywhere. You can do it as you're going from point A to point B, as you're traveling, as you're commuting. You can do this if you're waiting in line somewhere. You can do this as you're going from one meeting to another. The other thing that I love to do in my day is I actually purposely schedule out some time between meetings. So I don't go back to back meetings. Anytime I've done that, it doesn't feel good in my body. So I try and leave at least a 10 to 15 minute buffer between calls, so that I can get up and go for a walk, get some fresh air, have some water, maybe get some snacks, to like some fruit to snack on or something like that. But just having that break so that you're not like go, go, go all the time. And it's important for you to do that because it's going to help you to regulate yourself and to regulate your nervous system. The people that I know that go 100 miles an hour, even though they're saying that that's their speed and they're used to it, what I have observed is there's a lot of chaos around them and they're in a state of stress, which is not fun to observe, you know? So I know for myself what feels good. It feels good for me to have some space between calls. It feels good for me to have space between social events. It feels good for me to have some space in my day in the morning and the evening where I can like regulate myself. So in the morning, I always meditate first thing in the morning. I don't do anything else. Meditation comes first before everything. And even as I'm laying in bed, when I wake up, I start to do some deep breathing. I start to practice gratitude. Then I'll usually sit up and start doing a meditation. In the evening, as I'm going to bed, I usually will write out some gratitude, things that happen in the day that I'm grateful for. And I'll usually do some reading. And then as I'm laying in bed, I think of things that I'm grateful for and I practice deep breathing as I'm going to sleep. So what am I doing? I'm just calming my nervous system down. And I can feel that shift within my body where I'm no longer tense from the day and everything starts to relax. That's what you want to be doing. And ideally, we want to be going through our day like that. And it's not always possible, but it's just something to be aware of. And if you are someone who's gone through a lot of traumatic events, it takes practice. I mean, for myself, I've had the briefest moments on this latest protocol where I feel so different in my body than I have ever in my life. And that's a very new feeling for me. For someone who's like, I've done so much work on my health, but it's also because I went through so many things and I was dealing with chronic illness. I've dealt with a lot of trauma. And so I understand that even as far as I am in my own personal health journey, I'm not done yet, that there are still things to work on and layers to peel back. And I'm speaking as someone who has successfully reversed multiple chronic health issues. I've been completely off medication now for over 5 years. I feel amazing. I feel the best that I've ever felt. And yet I recognize that there's this aspect of my nervous system that is still not completely dealt with. And that's just par for the course as someone who has had the history that I've had. And now that I'm aware of the importance of doing this work on regulating my nervous system, it's a daily practice. It's something that I tune into every single day. And obviously, the more time I spend offline, away from technology, and being somewhere like in nature, I definitely feel that shift within me. It's not always possible, but I do my best to get away and to be completely unplugged as much as possible. I will share this very cool thing that I was doing a couple of years ago, and I got away from it, and I'm actually going to go back to it, which is I would have a complete technology and phone break for minimum 24 hours on the weekend, where I was totally not reachable at all. My phone would be off and I was just doing what I was doing and being in my life. Very few of us get to do that. And I know for myself, I feel the pressure because I run a business online. So I feel like I need to be online all the time, but that's not healthy and it's not possible. So I'm actually going to be re-implementing that Sabbath going forward, where I'm going to be unplugging at a certain time on Saturdays and completely offline till Monday morning. When you give yourself that kind of a break, it feels really, really spacious, and it allows your nervous system to settle in a very different way. So those are some of the tools that I recommend. And again, it's start with one thing, see how it feels in your body, and then add things. For myself, I've been doing meditation, yoga, breathwork for so many years. And the tweaks in my diet and my hydration, that's been within the last few years, in the last 6 years. And now this latest protocol, this is a new thing that I started about a month ago, and I've got 3 more months left on it, but I definitely feel a difference within my body, which is amazing. I do calls for it a couple times a week, so you're always welcome to send an email or comment below the video, and I can send information. Actually, email would probably be the best thing to do. Email, and we can send information for the calls. Aside from that, I have an amazing membership, Elevate, which is all about addressing the root causes of chronic illness and disease. And yes, I do cover nervous system regulation within that program and talk about different tools, different modalities to implement. I wanted to, before I close end the live, I wanted to really talk about mindset, because this is so important if you are someone who is on a health journey. So having done this now for 8 years, I've been working with clients privately now for 8 years now. And what I have found is the clients that are the most successful are generally the clients who believe in their body's ability to heal itself, who are open to trying things, even if it's something that they don't really fully understand, but they're willing to try something different than what they've been doing, because obviously what they've been doing hasn't resulted in the type of health that they want. And unfortunately, a lot of the things that do truly address the root causes of chronic illness and disease within the body, most of those things are not that widely known, or there is a concerted effort to suppress them. Like, let's face it, how many doctors I've spoken to over the years that have told me that diet and lifestyle play no role whatsoever in chronic illness. And yet I can tell you firsthand that I've used diet and lifestyle changes to reverse chronic illness in my own body. And I've seen it work with hundreds and hundreds of people. So obviously it works, but a lot of, kind of like the mainstream understanding discredits it, because I'm not actually fully sure why people don't know about it, why it isn't common knowledge that, number one, your body can heal itself. And number two, if you change your diet and your lifestyle, that is the first step to getting your body to heal itself. So mindset is a big, big part of just life in general, but definitely on your health journey. So the people that really believe that their body can heal itself really adopt the attitude of like, I'm going to give this a try. And then the third thing is just not putting a time limit on your body, right? I met with a private client last week, and this person has had, last year alone, this person had 6 rounds of antibiotics. So needless to say, his gut is completely destroyed. And I said to him, he wanted to know how quickly we could fix this. I said, honestly, the way that I work, we're going to be working in 4-month protocols. So we'll do the first 4 months. We'll see how your body responds and kind of where you're at in terms of like, do you want to do more work, or do you want to just kind of go into a little bit of a maintenance mode for a little while before we dive back in? But I told him, because previous to him and all those rounds of antibiotics, he was also on a standard American diet where he ate fast food almost every single day of the week. So there is a lot of damage within his body, a lot of additives and preservatives and toxic chemicals that have built up in his system, not to mention all those rounds of antibiotics and the damage that they have done to his gut. So needless to say, he's got a lot of, not fun gut things going on. And so I just said to him, it's going to take some time. And the best thing that you can do for yourself is to not put a time limit on your body and just be willing to do the work and allow your body to do what it needs to do. Trust that it can heal, but it's going to take the time that it takes. And that's what I found on my own health journey. It's just going to take me the time that it takes. And while my body is physically healthy, obviously there's aspects in terms of addressing my nervous system that are ongoing that I have to work at. And part of that also, it has to do with me recognizing of not taking on too much, because when you take on too much and you put a lot of projects and stuff on your plate, it's a lot of things to manage, and it can become overwhelming and too stressful. So this is part of the reason why so many people are in a chronic state of stress. They're just doing too much, and not, and they don't have the support that they actually need in terms of having other people to pitch in and help out. So yeah, just having that right mindset of trusting your body and being willing to go on that journey, and then also giving your body some grace and trusting the process and not having a deadline, you know? Like, our body doesn't work on deadlines. That's not at all how our body works. And so it is so important to just give yourself some grace. And the other thing that I find is having that a daily wellness routine, no matter where you are. You know, if you have your daily wellness routine in terms of your nutrition, your hydration, your movement, mindset, sleep, if you can cover off those bases, no matter where you are in the world, you're going to feel good in your body. You're going to feel healthy overall. I know for myself, like, there are certain things that I do no matter where I am. I'm having superfoods whether I'm here or whether I'm halfway across the world. In fact, I bring them with me. I'm hydrated whether I'm here at home working from my home office or whether I'm flying somewhere. I still have my hydration with me. So it is important to start to establish a health toolkit for yourself. That's just a part of your like daily non-negotiables of how you take care of yourself. Just think of it this way, like, if you have a car, you know that your car needs oil changes, you know that it needs to be checked by the mechanic at least once a year, you know that you got to rotate your tires, you got to put some gas in the car. Your body is no different. There are certain things that are necessary to take care of yourself. And if you're not doing those things and you don't do those things for too long, sooner or later, your body's going to start talking to you in the form of symptoms, trying to get you to pay attention and to actually take care of it. So the symptoms are simply your body communicating with you. And hopefully you're paying attention and taking action, and not suppressing the symptoms by medicating them, and not ignoring the symptoms and allowing them to go on and on and on. So for example, this morning, one of my practitioner friends reached out to me and she's like, oh, I've had this hip pain for the last few months, and she's doing all the right things. She's, eating properly, working, optimizing her sleep. She's got some great biohacks. And I just said to her, I said, do you do any yoga or stretching? Like, are you moving your body enough? And she's like, you know what? I talk to people about that all the time, and I forget to do it myself. And I said, yep. Why don't you do 2 weeks of making sure that you're stretching every single day and you're getting some movement in, and see how you feel? Because maybe it's as simple as that you need to go and get yourself a chiropractic adjustment, and you just need to move more, and there's nothing wrong with your body. But the fact of the matter is, I'm guilty of this as well. We spend a lot of time sitting, and sitting is not good for your body. So you're going to start to experience hip pain and low back pain. So becoming aware of like this body, this machine that we're in, it needs to be taken care of in certain ways. So anyway, I hope that you found value from today's video. Make sure that you check the links below this video. If you're not already subscribed to this channel, please subscribe, because I want to be able to continue to make content for you related to health and well-being and mindset. And check out my program, Elevate, because it's all about addressing the root causes of chronic illness and disease. And I share some amazing protocols and tools within that program. If you have any comments, please comment below the video. I love answering questions, and I look forward to seeing you in the next live. Bye for now.